Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Christy Houlihan of Pennsylvania. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. I know you've got some votes to get to here, so let's dive in. I want to start by sharing the stories of three recently laid off federal workers from across the country who are angry with President Trump and Elon Musk.
It hurt a lot to get laid off, get fired on, especially on my birthday. I'm worried that she's going to possibly miscarry because of the stress that it's putting on her.
Projects will be dropped, treatments or detection methods will be lost.
I really felt that we were providing support and care to humanity around the world, and that made me feel proud no matter who was president.
What's your reaction to that?
It's hard not to just be stunned and overcome by grief for those people who, I mean, listen, nobody joins the federal government to get rich. They do it because they feel like that there's a purpose to their jobs and a purpose for the work itself. And those are stories of individual people that I hear all the time. We have solicited the same kind of feedback from our community and gotten hundreds of the same kind of stories that are impacting communities across this nation, and it's tragic.
More cuts are coming. First, it was DOGE. Now each agency is being asked to make their own cuts. Take a listen to Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday when he was asked about the viral videos of town halls where we've seen constituents angry at their GOP representatives. Watch.
No, because no, I don't. Because the videos you saw of the town halls were for paid protesters in many of those places. These are Democrats who went to the events early and filled up the seats. If the videos had panned outside the building,
you can't argue they were all paid protesters, though, Mr. Speaker.
Many of them were.
I don't know. Acknowledged they were his constituents.
One Republican acknowledged they were his constituents. That's fantastic. Okay, but they had Democrats come and fill the seats early.
What do you make of that answer?
That's enormously paranoid. I think that the reality is, listen, I just had a town hall. We had 700 seats filled. We had hundreds, I estimated about 500 or 600 who were turned away, and they were all very concerned. And I live in a purple community of roughly 40% Dems, 40% Republicans, and 20% independents. And people are anxious and they are worried. And listen, that's their job. Their job is to have these town halls and to listen to the feelings and concerns of their community. And the idea that somehow these are plants is ridiculous. The last thing I'll say is there's a rumor around here that the speaker is encouraging his community not to hold town halls any longer because of the visuals of these kinds of town halls, and that's also really irresponsible.
NBC has that reporting as well. There's also the potential cuts coming to Medicaid, which covers about 72 million Americans, mostly low-income, disabled people as well. The GOP budget proposal would cut Medicaid spending by up to $800 billion. Do you see that happening?
I don't see how they can't have that happening given this depth of the cuts that we just had people vote on this week in terms of what the budget will look like. Medicaid, as you mentioned, is obviously something that quite a lot of our communities rely upon. My community has 23% of our community who are disabled in one way, shape, or form, including members of my own family. And the idea that we would be cutting those kinds of things is gutless and heartless. And it's literally impossible to see that that won't happen given the depth of the cuts that they're proposing.
You're an Air Force veteran, and later today, veterans who were fired by DOGE will share their stories about the hardships that they and their families are facing. Now, the VA is pausing billions in cuts after intense outcry. The AP says some of the proposed cuts would affect everything from cancer care to the ability to assess toxic exposure. Again, these cuts are now on pause. What have you and other lawmakers been told about how decisions are being made?
You know, I'm flabbergasted. I have almost no words to describe what you just showed in terms of Elon's, conversation about that mistakes will be made. When you're talking about sort of whoops happening with Ebola or problems happening with our veterans, listen, those are the very same people who fight and die in many cases for our freedoms. And here we are, undermining their care and our concern for them. And it's super alarming. I can't figure out how the DOGE is working. It's certainly not effective and efficient. If I could add, I also heard that recently the meeting of trying to assess what the flu vaccine would look like this season has just been canceled. There are lots and lots of people, elderly people in my community and other places who will need that flu vaccine, and also those who are immunocompromised. And we are in the active process of killing Americans when we do things like that.
And we'll have more on that flu vaccine issue later this hour. Democratic Congresswoman Christy Houlihan, thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your perspective and insights.